June 20, 1965. 4,500 feet above the shimmering green paddies west of Thanh Hoa, North Vietnam. The air is thick with humidity and cordite. Major Bernard F. Fisher eases the throttle forward, and the engine in front of him answers with a deep, mechanical roar, 18 cylinders firing in controlled fury. The cockpit vibrates, not with the smooth whine of a jet, but with the muscular, piston-driven thunder of the Douglas A-1 Skyraider. Call sign, Hobo 51. They call it the SPAD. Short for SPAD 7. A World War I fighter. A joke. An insult. A relic. A propeller-driven attack plane in the jet age. Below him, the jungle canopy ripples in the heat haze. Somewhere ahead, North Vietnamese anti-aircraft guns are already warming up. Crown, this is Hobo Flight. We're inbound. Static. Then confirmation. Fisher glances right. Captain Doughty's Skyraider flies tight off his wing. Both aircraft are loaded heavy, ordnance hanging beneath the broad wings like iron fruit. 500-pound bombs, napalm canisters, white phosphorus rockets. Each aircraft carries more payload than some World War II bombers. But they are slow. Top speed, roughly 320 miles per hour. Against them, if they show up, are Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17 fighters, sleek, swept-wing jets capable of over 700 miles per hour. Guns that can rip through aluminum in a blink. Fisher knows the math. He pushes it aside. Eyes sharp, he mutters. Below, smoke rises from the Special Forces camp at A Shau. It's under siege. Viet Cong and North Vietnamese Army units have overrun parts of the perimeter. An American pilot, Major Doughty, is down somewhere near the runway after taking ground fire during a strike. The Skyraiders are here for Sandy escort and rescue cover. Combat search and rescue. They descend lower, and then the sky explodes. Black puffs of 37mm flak burst around them. Orange tracers slash upward from tree lines. The cockpit fills with the sharp heavy metallic crack of fragments striking metal skin. Fisher banks hard left. The SPAD shudders but holds. That big right, our 3350 radial up front keeps pulling, steady and stubborn. A jet would streak through this in seconds. The Skyraider absorbs it. That's the difference. Through the canopy, Fisher spots movement. Fast, silver flashes slicing across the blue horizon. MiGs. 2 MiG-17s diving from high altitude, sunlight glinting off their wings. For a split second, it feels absurd. Prop plane versus jets. The MiGs close fast. One overshoots slightly, misjudging the Skyraider's slower speed. The other lines up behind Doughty. Fisher reacts instinctively. He slams the throttle, pulls into a tight, low-speed turn. Tighter than any jet could safely manage without stalling. The Skyraider's massive wings bite into the humid air. The aircraft groans but carves the circle. The MiG flashes past, unable to match the turn radius. The fight compresses into chaos. Fisher drops altitude, skimming treetops at barely 300 feet. The MiGs hesitate. They are built for speed, for vertical maneuvers, for clean energy fights. Down here at low altitude, slow and dirty, the SPAD is in its element. A burst of cannon fire streaks overhead, missing by yards. Come on, Fisher whispers. He pulls into another brutal turn, forcing the MiG to either follow into a dangerous slow-speed engagement or break off. The jet tries to stay with him. It bleeds speed. That's when the trap springs. Behind the MiG, another Skyraider rolls in. Lieutenant Clinton Johnson squeezes the trigger. For 20mm cannons erupt, spewing a stream of high-explosive shells. The rounds walk up the MiG's fuselage. Flash. Then smoke. The jet snaps upward, trailing flame. For a heartbeat, nobody speaks. The MiG rolls inverted and plunges into the jungle canopy below, exploding in a blossom of orange fire. A 320 miles per hour prop plane has just helped shoot down a jet. But there's no time to celebrate. Second MiG breaking high. The remaining MiG-17 climbs sharply, then dives toward the rescue corridor. Fisher banks again, placing himself between the jet and the downed pilot's position. He knows what they say about the SPAD. Obsolete, slow, easy prey. Yet here, low over Vietnam, with guns blazing and jungle racing beneath his wheels, the Skyraider is doing something jets struggle to do. It's staying. Can loiter for hours. Can take punishment. Can turn inside a jet at low speed. It can deliver hell precisely where needed. The MiG makes one more pass, a high-speed slash, then pulls away, unwilling to commit to a knife fight at treetop level. Silence returns in fragments. Flak still pops below. Smoke still rises from the camp. But the sky is theirs again. Fisher exhales slowly. Hobo flight, we're not done. Let's get our man. Below, the runway is cratered. Dottie's aircraft burns near the edge of the strip. Somewhere in the tree line, he's alive for now. And the Spad, mocked and underestimated, begins its descent into the most dangerous part of the valley. The Skyraider drops lower, wings rocking in the rising heat from burning wreckage. Major Bernard Fisher can now see the runway clearly, if it can still be called that. The dirt strip at A Shau is cratered, torn apart by mortar impacts. Smoke drifts sideways across it in oily sheets. Small arms fire crackles from the tree line. The camp perimeter is collapsing. Crown, this is Hobo 51. I have visual on the downed pilot. Static answers first. Then a strained voice. Negative, Hobo. Strip is compromised. Repeat. Compromised. Fisher ignores it. Ahead, near the edge of the shattered runway, a figure runs from the tree line. Helmet off. Flight suit scorched. Stumbling. Major Dottie. North Vietnamese troops are closing in behind him. Dark shapes moving through brush, muzzle flashes snapping. Fisher doesn't think in paragraphs. He thinks in seconds. He shoves the nose down. The Douglas A-1 Skyraider is not built for elegance. It's built for brutality. The massive propeller bites the air as he drops through small arms fire. Bullets punch through the wings with sharp metallic thuds. Warning lights flicker. Altitude, 300 feet. He lowers the gear. Major, what are you doing? Johnson's voice cracks over the radio. The runway rushes toward him. Uneven, cratered, barely long enough. Fisher fights the urge to flare too early. The aircraft slams down hard, bouncing once. He forces it back onto the earth. Dust explodes around the cockpit. He brakes aggressively, skidding past a smoking crater. The aircraft fishtails, threatening to ground loop. He stomps the rudder, corrects, brings the beast under control. Gunfire is everywhere now. Dottie sprints toward him, arms pumping, face streaked with grime. Rounds kick up dirt around his boots. Fisher swings the canopy open. Move! Move! The Skyraider wasn't designed for two men. There's no spare seat. No elegant rescue harness. Just space behind the armor plate and radio gear. Dottie reaches the wing root, grabs metal, hauls himself up. Fisher can see fear in his eyes. Not panic, but the cold realization of how close this is. A burst of AK fire punches through the fuselage. Dottie shoves himself into the cramped space behind the seat, wedged against equipment, half-crouched. I'm in. Fisher doesn't wait. Throttle forward. The R-3350 roars like a wounded animal. The aircraft lurches forward across broken earth. Speed builds painfully slowly. Too slowly. The end of the strip approaches, jungle looming beyond it. Bullets slam into the tail section. Something metallic snaps behind him. Warning horn blares. Come on. Come on. The airspeed needle crawls upward. 70 knots. The runway vanishes beneath them. The ground drops away just enough, barely enough. Fisher pulls gently, refusing to over-rotate. The Spad clears the trees by what feels like inches. Branches whip past below. They are airborne. Behind them, the valley erupts in small arms fire, tracers clawing at the retreating aircraft. Fisher banks hard, hugging terrain, refusing to present a clean silhouette against the sky. Dottie's voice comes from behind him, breathless. I thought that was it. Fisher doesn't answer. He's scanning the sky, because the MiGs could come back. And when they do, a heavily damaged Skyraider carrying two men won't stand much of a chance in open air. He stays low, 200 feet. The aircraft vibrates more than before. Control response feels sluggish. Hydraulic pressure is fluctuating. Johnson's voice returns. Hobo 51, you're leaking fluid. You're trailing smoke. Copy, Fisher replies evenly. We're heading south. Minutes stretch like hours. The jungle slides beneath them, endless green broken by rivers reflecting sunlight. Every distant glint could be another Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17 lining up a dive. But the sky remains empty. The MiGs, built for speed and interception, have already disengaged. They will not descend into this low, slow, unpredictable terrain fight again. The Skyraider has forced the engagement into a space where jets hesitate. That is the paradox of the SPAD. Cannot outrun a jet, but it can survive where jets cannot comfortably operate. By the time they cross into friendlier airspace, the aircraft is barely holding together. Hydraulic fluid streaks the fuselage. The tail is punctured. The wings are riddled with holes. Fisher finally allows himself to breathe. In the cramped space behind him, Doughty shifts slightly. You just landed in a combat zone under enemy fire. Fisher keeps his eyes forward. Seemed like the right thing to do. Hours later, when they land safely in South Vietnam, maintenance crews stare at the aircraft in disbelief. It looks like scrap metal that somehow kept flying. Word spreads quickly. A propeller-driven relic just defied ground fire, jets, and common sense, and won. In the months and years that follow, Skyraider pilots will continue to tangle with MiGs over Vietnam. And in more than one desperate engagement, the so-called obsolete SPAD will help bring down jets that were supposed to dominate the modern battlefield. Not because it was faster, but because in the brutal, chaotic air war over Vietnam, endurance, turning radius, and raw staying power sometimes mattered more than speed. The 320 miles per hour attack plane had proven something that day. Mock it if you want. Just don't underestimate it. September 1st, 1968. Late afternoon. 8,000 feet over the mountains west of Dong Hoi, North Vietnam. The sun hangs low, bleeding orange across broken cloud layers. Below, jungle ridges roll toward the Laotian border. Radio chatter fills the cockpit. Tight, controlled, tense. Lieutenant Colonel William A. Jones grips the stick of his Douglas A-1 Skyraider. Call sign Sandy 01. Search and rescue again. Somewhere ahead, a U.S. pilot is down. Smoke marks the crash site, thin and fragile against the vast green. Jones pushes the throttle. The big radial engine answers with that familiar thunder. Slow compared to jets. Ancient, some say, but it can stay. High above, contrails slice the sky. Fast movers are escorting, including F-4 Phantoms, but they can't loiter. They'll make passes and climb away, thirsty for fuel. The Sandys will remain. Jones banks left, descending toward the smoke column. Multiple gun positions, 12 o'clock low, his wingman calls. Black bursts of 23 millimeters fire erupt near the ridge. Tracers streak upward in red arcs. Jones dives straight at them. The Skyraider is heavy with ordnance, cluster bombs and rockets. He steadies the nose, lines up the first gun position, and squeezes the trigger. White smoke trails from the rockets as they leap forward. Impact. The hillside erupts in dirt and flame. But the North Vietnamese gunners are disciplined. More positions open up, interlocking fields of fire. Then the radio crackles. Bandits inbound. 2 contacts. High and fast. Everyone knows what that means. MiGs. 2 Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-17 dive out of the sun. Silver shapes accelerating past Mach 0.9. Their cannons flash immediately, 23 millimeters rounds stitching the sky. Jones jerks the stick hard right. The Skyraider rolls sluggishly compared to a jet, but once banked, it holds the turn like it's on rails. The first MiG slashes past, overshooting. The second commits. He tries to match the turn. That's the mistake. At 300 knots and dropping, the MiG begins bleeding energy rapidly. The SPAD, built with massive straight wings, thrives here. It digs in and tightens. The horizon becomes a spinning smear of jungle and sky. Stay with him, Jones mutters. The MiG pilot realizes too late he's slow and low. From above, one of the escorting F-4s calls out the geometry. "Sandy, you've got him turning inside." Jones steadies the Pipper, not for guns but forcing the MiG to react. The jet pilot panics, pulls harder. The MiG's nose pitches high, too high. For a split second, it hangs on the edge of a stall. That's when Lieutenant Colonel Bob Westfall, another Sandy pilot, dives into the fight. His 4 20mm cannons roar. The tracers connect. The MiG snaps sideways, smoke trailing instantly. The canopy flashes, something separates. Then the aircraft rolls inverted and plunges toward the ridgeline. Fire blossoms against the jungle floor. The second MiG, seeing his wingman destroyed by propeller-driven attack planes, climbs hard and flees north. Silence again. Jones exhales slowly. The rescue isn't over. Ground fire still peppers the area. The downed pilot is wounded, and the Sandys must keep circling, hour after hour if necessary, suppressing enemy positions while helicopters approach. That's what the MiG pilots never liked. They could dive in for seconds. The SPAD could remain for hours. Jones makes another low pass, dropping ordnance within meters of friendly smoke. The aircraft shudders as rounds strike the fuselage. A warning light flashes, fuel pressure fluctuating. He ignores it. The helicopter and HH-3 edges into the valley, rotors beating the humid air. Jones rolls in again, guns blazing, walking 20mm fire across a tree line where muzzle flashes wink. The MiGs do not return. They've learned something by now. The Skyraider may be slow, but in the tight, chaotic geometry of low-altitude combat, speed alone doesn't win. By the time the helicopter extracts the wounded pilot and climbs away, the sun is nearly gone. Jones pulls his damaged aircraft south, the big radial engine still pounding like a mechanical heart that refuses to quit. Years later, historians will tally the numbers. Yes, MiGs were faster. Yes, jets represented the future. But over Vietnam, in at least 2 confirmed engagements, the supposedly obsolete Skyraider would be credited with MiG kills, a piston-driven attack aircraft defeating jet fighters in the modern era. Not through technological superiority, through tactical stubbornness, through endurance, through pilots willing to drag the fight into a corner of the sky where speed meant nothing. The SPAD, 320 miles per hour, mocked at first, feared later.